what ways does your media products use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? I think initially our film challenges conventions of real media products for its lack of using a tripod in certain shots of the film. Although it may be argued that this adheres to some of the rules of Lars von Trier's Dogma 95 amongst other directors, which we thought though we didn't follow all of the goals of this due to the presence of non-diegetic music and filters from post-production modification. We chose not to use a tripod in some shots, partly due to economic deprivation of our educational institution, but also because we planned to neglect the method in order to convey that the character has a sense of chaos in their lives, and the shaking of the camera and the unrest of the camera, we thought conveyed this subtly. But in other ways we did conform to media conventions because we used non-diegetic music in our film, which we thought added like a mood to our film, and also the music was able to relate to the character and what the character was feeling, and we thought that this gave some context for the audience so they could kind of like understand what the character was going through, because perhaps without the music they might be a little bit confused to the context of the character and how the character feels. We also found influence from soul bass in our media products, such as particularly in our poster. We felt that the minimalism of the poster would attract some audiences who have been influenced by Bass's work, as his work has shown to be impacted amongst young independent cinema goers and fans, and this can be seen through young microblogging and social networking platforms such as Tumblr, whose users also see would be our ideal audience prototype. We did adapt this though so it would adhere more to the genre, and we developed this by adding a tongue to the frog on the poster, which hints at the comedic elements of the film. We also thought that this would also work for the film, as Bass's work would be generally be used for drama films, but it seemed more recently to be influencing more comedy, dramedy films such as Burn After Reading, which used the style also. We thought that this would mesh well with our media products. Bass also stated that design is thinking made visual, and we wanted the audience or potential audiences to think about what our film would be about and hopefully see from the poster that there is an element of these things like frogs, but how do the frogs relate to the film, and we wanted them to be intrigued by the film, and hopefully we thought that our poster would encourage people to see what the film was about, because maybe their interest would be piqued by the poster and that this thinking would be made visual through the film, and their thinking would originate from seeing our poster. How effective is the combination of your main product and ancillary tasks? I think in particular that our main product and our poster are effective together in being a pair and working together, because I think that the poster and the film mesh well, because the poster does represent how and what the film is about and the topic of the film in a way, but it isn't obvious, and it doesn't totally conform to most media types, which I think could be thought of as boring or typical, and we didn't want our film to be typical, we wanted it to be atypical. But I do think that our main product, the film, isn't particularly effective with our second ancillary product, which was our film review page, because I do think that the film review page is a letdown. I think that maybe we could have improved it, and I think that the design of the film product page could have been more streamlined and professional looking. I think the resolution could have been better, and I thought that it could have more conformed to many media products. I do think that it did conform in a way because we were influenced by zines such as the free magazines given away at HMV, such as The Fly, which we found a great usefulness from, because it gave us a prototype layout to work from, and it also showed us how our media film could be, how it could be shown in the review, how that would relate to potential audiences for the audience that we wanted, young, perhaps more indie people to see the film, because maybe main audiences wouldn't relate to it as much, or they wouldn't get it as much, and we thought that this would be our audience for the film, and this is the way that the audience would see and hear and read about it, as well as just like social networking devices such as Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, that would also be like forms of advertising for the main film, but also these moves back to zines and more retro things and like a more analogue sense to it, which I think was kind of conveyed with the lack of a use of a tripod in some certain scenes of the film, which I think was kind of effective in a meshing, but I still think that there could have been more streamlined design and more professional sense of the second ancillary product, the film review, because I do think that my experience in graphic design and such as work experience could have helped a hell of a lot more in its building and its development, which I feel we didn't really show and we didn't really use to our strengths as much as we could have. It seems that it was kind of a little bit rushed and it could have been better. What have you learnt from audience feedback? We learnt from audience feedback that we needed to develop the shots and the storyline and script of the film more, so that what was going on was more implicit to the audience and that they understood more what was happening. Because we thought that though it could be down to suggestion, and we thought initially that the audience would get it, we realised that the audience needed the context of what was occurring, and we felt that audience feedback really helped with this. With this, we developed the script and we added extra shots and we extended the short film more to show what was occurring in the film. It also helped us because in initial audience feedback from our rough cut, we realised that we needed more post-production work on it, such as more non-diegetic music, more filters and more transitions within the film, so it wasn't just jumping from scene to scene with no context, there wasn't a smoothness to the film. Like, as a rough cut, it was quite rough and it needed work and it needed development, and we felt that audience feedback really helped with this, as it gave us what we needed to make the film better. I also think that audience feedback helped us develop with our actors and the relationship between the camera and the actors, as initially we had a different actress for our psychiatrist and we felt that she wasn't really connecting well with the audiences, and that could have been because of the tone of voice, and that didn't really relate very well. We couldn't really get a sense of what was occurring and the relationship between the characters because of this also, and we felt that by replacing the main psychiatrist character, that we also gained a comedic sense of the film that we had been hoping for, and her tone of voice and the interactions also helped, and we felt that the audience feedback helped us realise this. We also got audience feedback on our poster, and at first our poster didn't really show the genre of the film because it was missing the tongue and the fly, and it didn't really show how that really related to the film and its characters and what was going to happen. But we felt that by adding this, it gave us like a little comedic sense, and it showed that there was humour in the film, and we felt that like added to it a little bit, and we could see that there was going to be like little tiny comedic elements throughout the film shown through there, and like it did, audience feedback showed that it did help and it did show that. How did you use media technologies in the construction, research and planning and evaluation stages of making your media products? In our planning, we use technologies such as the internet to find influencing figures on our works, such as Baths, but also and in our ancillary products. Though there wasn't too much technology included in the process other than using our wiki, which we recorded and documented our planning processes and what was going to happen, so that we could keep track of what was happening with our products. For our research, we used digital media such as the internet and internet streaming of videos for short films, so that we could realise and learn the conventions of short films. We also used DVDs as examples for the conventions of short films. We watched short films such as Terry Tate and short films based off of George Lucas and Star Wars sagas, so that we could see how short films were produced, constructed, and how, if there are any common threads running through them. We also found that we watched not just American short films, but also British short films that featured British actors such as James from The In-Betweeners, as those were more contemporary, and they gave us examples of what was more available to us in the British realm of filmmaking, and we found that this was very helpful, and these technologies we thought were very, very important to our research, constructing, and generally the whole process of making this media products and the films. For the construction of a film, we used the digital camera to film, though in our original planning we did have a video camera, but our educational institution, as previously mentioned, is economically deprivated, and our media faculty only has one video camera, which was unfortunately in use for all of our filming and our refilming, so that we had to use the Canon G10, and we did feel that we had to compromise on the quality and resolution of the film, which is unfortunate for the film, but we do feel that it would have been bad to wait around to use this video camera, as it was so hard to keep a track of who had it and so hard to use it, so because of its availability, that we felt that we did have to compromise these films in order to make our film and in order to have the time to edit our film. In our construction of our ancillary products, we used Photoshop, the latest version, which we were kind of familiar with, as I have experience in graphic design, as I did it at GCSE, and my work experience was at a graphic design company, Liaison Design. So I had experience with CS2, which I did feel was kind of useful in the construction of the ancillary products, because I had a background with it and I knew it more than some of my classmates, so I did feel that it wasn't too much of a advantage upon me, because it was a more advanced and latest version and more newer technology, so I did feel that it wasn't too much of a difference. We also used Final Cut in our editing, and we had used that last year, so we had some familiarity and some awareness about how it worked and how we could use it, and this made our construction and editing much more easier, because we knew we had this familiarity, and we didn't have to go through the realm of learning how to use it as we did last year, which I think really, really helped us in our A2 year. We also used GarageBand for our non-diegetic music, and we had used this with the help of Sophie's uncle, who was a musician, and we found that this technology was very helpful. Instead of using our phones or other media recording devices to have our music and such and sound effects, felt that this was really helpful in using GarageBand, and that the access to it really did help. For the poster, we used the internet to download the font for the credits, which conformed to typical media conventions of film posters, with the narrow and small font, which also did conform to it, and we felt that this was really essential for our ancillary media product. For the evaluation, I'm using Photo Booth to record this visual as I speak. I also intend to edit and compile the videos using iMovie and Final Cut, which I will use to edit it and add filters to it so that it comes out in the best quality possible. Last year I created my evaluation using advanced podcasting GarageBand, but have chosen to create a video this year as I feel that the visual aids, which I did have last year, but this year will be more easily accessible using video. I also intend to make use of GarageBand though with our audience feedback, as we didn't have the chance to use video when we did create our audience feedback, so it is an audio recording